Hello and welcome to MCFC 9320 PUBcast. Got a bit of an umdinger this week, to be fair. Got Paddy as normal, Anne-Marie, Mrs. Mahrez as normal, and we've got Gary who's joined us. Thanks for joining us, guys.
No, you're welcome.
Good evening.
Yeah, everyone in the chat as well. Big Morg, Paddy Wokes, Ethan, Pat, Keith, Alec, and Harvey. Welcome. I want you to get all your opinions in tonight, so we can discuss them as we always do. Also, on those who are watching on Facebook, I've put a poll up there as well to see what your expectations are this season. So what we'll do, we'll kick off tonight with the latest news, what's going on. And I'm not setting you up here, Anne-Marie, in any way, shape or form. It's Mahrez. Mahrez looks as if he's off to Saudi. The fee we're believed to be £30 million, not €30 million. So, Anne-Marie, I'm gonna read you something here about Mahrez. His stats since he's joined City. So, in the Champions League, the season's what he's joined us. Season 1, 9 matches, 3 goals. That was last season. Season before, 12 matches, 7 goals. 2021 season, 12 matches, 4 goals. 2019-2020, 7 matches, 1 goal. And the season before, the first season that he joined us, 6 matches, 1 goal. I'd say that is pretty good on a Champions League stage. I won't go through the cup competitions, but the Premier League is very, very interesting. The first season he joined us, 27 matches, 7 goals, 4 assists. 2019-2020, 33 matches, 11 goals, 9 assists. 2021 season, 27 matches, 9 goals, 6 assists. 2021-22, 28 matches, 11 goals, 5 assists. Last season, not quite as productive, was 30 matches, 5 goals, and 10 assists. Now, I say we're going to be missing a lot of quality there, and I'll let you go first, Anne-Marie.
As I've always said, there is no better player with a first touch than Mahrez. Never, ever disputed that. And what he does bring to the team, for me, is selfish, because his goals could have been a lot more. And my thoughts on his backtracking, it's non-existent. Mm-hmm. You've got a player there with Jack Grealish who's had 2 seasons with us and probably been more productive, maybe not on the goal side, but on the assists, and knows how to track back and win a ball back. And that's what I'm looking for in a player. Somebody who's going to work hard and is not just in it for themselves. Yeah. My thoughts on it. I'll very happily wave him off. Thanks very much.
I know you will. You'll be driving him all the way to Saudi, you.
Yes.
But I just think them stats are very good. I get your point, and I get what Keith's saying there. Good evening, guys. And by the way, tonight, the best comment, whoever does the best comment in the chat, I'll do you a mug of your choice. So I won't decide which one it is. I'll let the panel decide. But yeah, you'll get a mug. UK only though. I'm not spending too much on you lot, for sending it overseas. I love yous, but no. So yeah. So from my perspective, and we spoke about it a little bit before, and gone, here's Martin. Bring Martin in there. So Grealish, quite rightly, tracks back, absolutely brilliant. Plays to Pep's tactics, it seems. Doesn't score a lot of goals, doesn't assist a lot of goals. Mahrez is perceived as lazy, doesn't track back. Who's to say that's not Pep's tactics, saying, listen, while everyone's bombing back and tracking back and stuff like that, You stay up because you're our outlet on the right. So the ball comes, we've got you straight away, and then Haaland, De Bruyne, etc. can join us.
I've just seen the comment for the winner, Andy. Patrick, get one with your face on it, Andy. Mug on a mug.
See what I mean? Diverting the question because you know I'm right yet again.
No.
Yeah, sure. Garrett, what's your take on the Mahrez situation, mate?
I think in the games that he wants to play in, I think he'll play. So I think Europe's a stage for him. I think he really enjoys playing in Europe, and then some of them other games that are not in tight situations, I think he excels. But it's not one of his work traits is not to work back, and I don't think they expect him to do that. So I think they pick and choose the games where he plays. I mean, I'm not one of his best ever fans, but he does deliver in certain games, doesn't he? But he's not a week in week out player, and that's why he doesn't play week in week out. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, but Paddy, with that, and I can't disagree with what Gary and Anne-Marie has said, to be fair. But what I would say is, like Alex saying there, if players want to go, let them go. Initially, it was coming out, and Mahrez actually came out publicly and said, I do not want to go. From the outside looking in, and we can never second guess Pep, obviously, but it seems like Pep or the club have said, listen, 30 million for you. You're not going to play much game time. I'd move on if I was you.
That's fair enough. Let him go if that's the case. As Gary says, he decides when to turn it on and turn it off. Like when you're playing with Mahrez, you're playing with man down most of the time. And I get what you're saying, the outlet. It's very easy to find Haaland. He's not exactly small.
Martin, Mahrez is a bit like Marmite, isn't there?
Yeah.
Are
some
you,
love him, some hate him.
Which side of the camp? Not suggesting you camp or anything, but which side do you do you go?
Listen, I've said this for weeks. I'm up for the refresh. I think it needs doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's you go back to 17-18 when we got Centurions. 5 or 6 went out. We brought 4 or 5 in, and we got Centurions. It's the best time to do it, and it's weird because last week everyone's going, want McAtee, want these young lads in, want to buy players. And I did a space and I was like, the problem is we have 23, 24 players. You can't just buy. Otherwise you end up with a squad like Chelsea. You've got to sell. And this is what the club have all been waiting for, is who was going to go out. Now, yes, Riyad Mahrez has been an integral part of the squad and has been for 5 or 6 years. He really has. I've always defended Mahrez, but the guy was getting less and less playing time.
Yeah,
not fair a guy at 33 to be sat on the bench in big games. They want to play.
I get that, mate. So that brings me on nicely to the subject what I want to talk about tonight, really. And that is, what are City fans' expectations for next season? Because we've got the side of the camp what's happy for the refresh and stuff like that, and it looks like we are going to decimate the squad at the moment. And you've got those who will, I've seen throughout social media, Twitter in particular, where there's a massive, massive meltdown, Anne-Marie. So what's your expectations for next season? Is it, I'm not bothered if we don't win anything because I can see what's going on, or it's important for that momentum of winning stuff to carry on?
That's a tricky one. I'd like, in my own mind, I'd like the league, and I think we can win the league. A I think the whole thing with the refreshing of the squad and people getting a bit kind of panicky about it is
yeah, we are to be fair.
Yeah, it's just we're too used to having all our business done early in the summer, not really leaving it to last minute. And I think this time around, it's not that it's necessarily been last minute, because I think we've got things lined up. It's just a case of the deals going through. So I've got no worries about us next season because I trust Pep. And I think, again, we can go on a great run in all competitions. Ideally, like I said, the league, I would want the league. I want to do it 4 in a row, and then that'll shut up our not so noisy neighbours.
Yeah, Gary, I know you're active on Twitter and stuff like that as well, mate. As we all are. The thing is, we all follow different people, so we generally get different ideas what City fans are. But I'm seeing a lot of meltdown. Are you in the we need to refresh, or are you in that don't refresh too much, or we can do both still? I agree with Anne-Marie where she says it's only early. Season's only been over for us, what, a month?
Yeah, I think we can do both. I think we can win and refresh. There's not enough pace in there's not enough pace in the team at times. I think we keep hold of the ball, don't we? Well, but there's just not we haven't got that acceleration in midfield at times. And I think having been involved in the game myself from a coaching point of view, I think the games won and lost in midfield in the Premier League. And I think we've got to have a bit of pace in there, and I don't think we've got that energy in there sometimes. And it'll be interesting sort of how that shapes up with Gundogan having gone, what sort of formation. I think he will play Foden central. It gives you a bit more pace, and Kovacic can get up and down as well, I think. So he's quite strong in it. But I think Foden playing central is the key. And I don't think they've replaced Gundogan yet, have they? And if Silva stays, I don't think they will. But I think having Foden playing centrally, I think is absolutely vital to the season.
Yeah, Paddy, do you? And Gary touched upon it there, mate. And that there is strong rumours now that Bernardo is staying, and you can look at it two ways. Will it be a disruption? I don't think it will be a disruption like Cancelo was. If Bernardo stays, would it be like signing a new player?
No, not really, because
after all, is he staying? Is he going? Is he staying? Is he going?
Well, the only reason we all know he's staying is because Barcelona can't afford him. That's the only reason why he's there. Because if Barcelona had money, he'd be gone. It's as simple as that. But he's never gone out of his way to cause trouble for the team or create hassle within the team, from what I can see or what I've been reading. So he's going to be, for me, he'll just accept what the reality is, and that's he's playing for a good team and he'll continue to contribute. In terms of the refresh, I don't think we need that big of a surgery job done. Laporte might go. Cancelo's definitely going. But then you have your man, then that Leipzig player, what do you call him?
Guardiola. Gaviscon, as I've heard him called.
Gaviscon, yeah. He's coming in. Who else do we really need?
Me and Martin have spoke about this with Guardiola, and we mate, on and off. There seems to be and I'm going to use this word quite a lot tonight because I do feel it's reflecting,
Meltdown.
It's £100 million or €100 million player is not going to get done and dusted in 5 minutes. We've seen that with Declan Rice. How long has it took Declan Rice to sign? I think officially did he sign yesterday or something like that? And I've put a poll up on the YouTube, and at the moment it's titled, "Are you concerned at the amount of players leaving City this summer?" Yes is 38%, no is 21%, and trust Pep on the board is winning with 41%. And I'm in, Martin, that we've got to trust Pep and the board.
Yeah, there are things going on behind the scenes, 1,000%. That story that broke about Bernardo and De Jong and Pep, that was true. Pep was in the restaurant talking with Laporte because Bernardo does want to go to Barca. That is, he just wants to go there. Barca have no money, so this is the way they're going to try and do it. And he's in Frankie De Jong's court now, whether he wants to come. I think the thing with Bernardo is, like I said, I'm not an ITK. I go off what I get told by a certain person. You know who they are, Andy. Bernardo is starting to kick eruptions up behind the scenes. Not with Pep, with the board. It's not so much with Pep, it's more with the board. Because he does what he does want out. And he only wants Barcelona. And he's had this contract on the table for 12 months, as you know, Andy, unsigned. Will not sign it. And then you hear Cheeky, they're not going to let him go for free.
You've got to think as well. And again, it's rumours, Anne-Marie, where he was asked if he stayed with us last season, Bernardo, Pep would give him the all clear to go. Now, there's two ways of looking at that. I couldn't give a monkeys. He's under contract. If he signed the contract, so we're not obliged to get rid of him in any way, shape, or form. However, if he has got a gentleman's agreement with Pep, he would be a little bit pissed off, wouldn't he, Bernardo, if we've reneged on that?
Yeah, he would. But again, like you say, we're not going to give him away. And if he's that desperate for Barcelona, Barcelona are in no position to sign him.
No, this is the only way they can get it done.
But also, Anne-Marie, it's like, if it's not money orientated with Bernardo, he could pay his contract out and go to Barcelona on a free.
I know, but Barcelona are in a position where they're struggling with players' wages, not to pay them, but to fit in with the rules of Spanish rules. And that's why nobody's going to go there and play for nothing, are they?
No. Where are you with the old Bernardo thing, Gary? Because it's getting a little bit tiresome, isn't it? Each season.
Yeah, Mo, he's wanted to go for 2 or 3 seasons, and and his family are sort of driving that as well, and his wife, etc. So, he's wanted to go there for a bit. It's the only place he wants to go and play. I think the thing about him is he's not a trouble causer, is he? And when he's playing, he gives his all for the team. So I don't think he's going to cause trouble in, once the season starts. So I don't think there's a risk. I don't think there's a risk him staying. So you can rely on him all the time, and Pep and the staff do that, don't they? So I think they've just got to make sure that he's got a part to play if he stays, because it's important that they don't disrupt the quality of the squad. Depth's going to be quite important, I think, next season.
Yeah, like Paddy, it's and again the poll is so far is trust Pep and the board. There's no way we're going to let the likes of Mahrez go, and I know the next two I'm going to say are not exactly first team starters, but Palmer on loan, Gomez on loan, Cancelo's gone anyway, Gundo's gone, Bernardo, all these players, Walker, even if. Now it was deemed that Walker has agreed a 2-year deal with City, and now that's looking doubtful. Pep's not just going to let these players go and not bring anybody of quality in, is he?
No, look, I'm really struggling to understand this. Look, I don't really go on Twitter that much because it's full of crap. But did they seriously think that Pep and this team have got to where they've got and not had a plan? Do we think now all of a sudden that we're going to start knee-jerk reaction, or we'll panic by him, we'll panic by that? We're probably about 2 seasons ahead as regards planning. These things, if you take into consideration Diaz was third choice, there's always a backup. It's not that we're going to be found wanting or found struggling. And these people on Twitter that are having these meltdowns, what are they having meltdowns about? What's the big panic?
You're absolutely right, Martin. Before I come to you, for all the guys in the chat, what's just joined us, the best comment tonight will win one of these mugs, either a PUBcast one or 115 charges mug. So yeah.
Just before you go to Martin, there is it true what they're saying? The Torres, the Barcelona still owe us 40 million for him.
Apparently, nobody knows that as facts, mate. It's all like he says, she says, in a "who shot John" kind of thing. But we don't actually know that. But by all the rumours, yes, they still owe us. I won't go anywhere near Barcelona. I've even seen it suggested, Martin, that we'll sell players or give players pretty much free to Barcelona because of the great relationship. But that's just absolutely bizarre. It's a business.
We're not. City are very peeved off that they keep getting lowballed on bloody offers at the moment, I'm hearing. And they want that to stop. They want value for money for the players. It's a difficult one. Like, people just talking there about Bernardo staying.
Yours is coming. It's getting crazy. So take it out now.
Amory, you're getting fined for that.
Come with sound effects tonight.
I'm not dancing.
No, I mean, the thing is, it's great Bernardo staying, because I do agree. I think if he stays and doesn't get his move, he'll give his all. My issue is he then gets the power.
In what way?
Because then he's not going to move in January. And then you go to next summer, he's got 1 year left in his deal. Then as a player, he can then sit down and arrange a move abroad 12 months ahead of time. So that's what I mean by the power. Now, I watched, I don't know if anyone's seen it, there was a thing that Cheeky did, or was it Soriano, one or two, talking about being, talking about a player's curve and business being ahead of the curve all the time. And he gave the example of Barcelona went on and won the treble. And they got offered a player 60 million euros. Mm-hmm. And they said, nope, we're going to keep the squad we've got. They won the treble, we're great. And then the season after, mentality-wise, they just dropped like a stone. And they got offered 24 million euros a year later for the exact same player. They got offered 60 million euros before. So Soriano was basically saying, this is what we've got to be careful of, is trying to stay ahead of that curve all the time. And you get them while they've still got value, rather than when they're on a downward spiral and you're getting less money. AKA like a Laporte now. No one's coming in going to spend 70 million quid on Laporte, because they're not looking at Laporte from 18 months ago. They're looking at Laporte from the last 6, 7, 8 months.
And rightly so.
So it becomes a different market.
If I was looking at buying a player, I'd be exactly the same as that. What you're saying with Laporte. If I fancied taking my chance on Cancelo, I'd be going to City. Listen, we'll take him off your hands. However, we only want him on loan, but you pay his wages. Or would you do something different, Anne-Marie?
No, I think that's probably the best thing to do, because I think we're going to struggle to sell Cancelo. Not because he's a bad player, but because he's got a bad attitude. And not many people are going to want to buy into that. He has to go, though. That's the one thing that I would say. One way or another, he has to go.
Yeah.
But I think... Sorry, go on.
No, go on, Martin.
I was going to say, we're all looking at it from fans' point of view. So when we're sat there going, Bernardo's worth 100 million, Laporte's worth 70 million. And you know what? To us, he is. Because as fans, he is. To other clubs and a business, they're not. It's like I've heard some fans have gone, let Bernardo run his contract down and go for free. Fine from a fan's point of view. From a club point of view, it's not great.
What's your stance on that, Gary? Now, I've said this before. I'm in the camp of what Martin's just said. I would keep Bernardo. He's under contract. I would say he's worth £60 million now. I'd rather forfeit £40 million now and let him go for 20 million next season, so you get £40 million worth of value out of him this season.
Yeah, well, there's two examples, isn't there? Well, one at our club with Gundogan, so they could have done that a year or so ago with him, and look at the value he brought in the last 6 or 7 games of the season. And they know the players' makeup, don't they? So they knew they could get that out of him, or they could have let him go. And then you look at the Harry Kane situation at Spurs; they absolutely know his value in that team, or with a new manager in the next 12 months could create 150 million if they can make Europe or the top 5. And because they'll only get about 70 million for him anyway if they wanted to sell him. And so there's two examples. So I don't even know why there's a conversation about Bernardo Silva from a fan point of view, because he's still got 2 years left on his contract. I mean, there's a tipping point in there, but I don't think he's reached that yet from a business point of view. I just think he can add more value in the next 12 months. And but I take Frankie de Jong as a swap. I think he's a great player. He's got loads of energy, and I think are we a little bit short out of the academy in that position? I think we are, and I see a lot of comments about play the young lads, but great teams have great players, and the great players are consistent, aren't they, week in, week out? And overplaying young players is is detrimental, unless they're exceptional like Foden was when he was younger. And you've seen a little bit of that with Rico Lewis, didn't you? It's about consistency. The great players are consistent, and Ireland as an example versus Jesus. And I think we're going to play 63 games, which is all competitions. You've got to be consistent every single game. You can't have an off day.
Absolutely, mate. And a great link there with what you said about the young lads, Paddy. Play the young lads. We keep seeing this on various things. It's okay saying to play the young lads, but for me, those who say play the young lads must be in the camp of I'm not bothered if we win anything at all next season. And that's the whole point of the topic tonight. Play the young lads. If we're playing all the young lads, it's not like the class of 92. The game has moved on massively since 1992. Are you in the thought of play them, or just play the odd one like a McAtee coming in? It looks like McAtee's going to join the squad.
I think the way Foden was handled and the way Foden was introduced to that team, that should happen to any of the young guys. Rico Lewis last season, he was keeping Walker out of the team for a while. But all these boys, they're saying play young lads, and what? Finish 10th, finish 9th. What else do you want? Did you just want bragging rights to say, we're playing young lads, or we're playing our academy, and be finishing 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, or did you want to win the league?
Yeah. Martin, with the respective kids and stuff like that, we need to be careful, to protect some of these kids, because if you expose them, say put 3 or 4 in, it's exactly like, for me, it's exactly what Gary said. You've got to be consistent week in, week out. The whole point of academy players coming through, they're not going to be consistent week in, week out. And before we know it, there's going to be an even bigger meltdown.
Well, it's really ironic because you start watching some of these meltdowns, but go back 2 weeks before, they're all going, we want McAtee in, we want Oscar Bob in, we want this in. Well, how can they get in if they've got all these players ahead of them? People need to move out for academy lads to come in. That's just people, like I said it for 2 weeks. Our squad right now, yes, people are going to leave, but our squad right now, if you add Gamardiel, is at 23, 24. People need to go. Right now we've got about 9, 10, 11 defenders. So people do need to move out. That's just a fact of life. I know a lot of it is fans have sentimental viewpoints to certain players. I was talking to someone last night. There was this fear of bringing the kids and don't win trophies. I think that is part of the issue with some fans, because they're scared of going trophyless, which don't know why, but they are. So there's that chance. I mean, McAtee, yeah, I'd love to see him given a go. It's a weird one. I really don't know where we're going to go with the academy lads because apart from Angelino, we've never brought anyone back off loan.
And we soon got rid of him again.
And he went again. So, do you remember Douglas Luiz? Everyone was getting him back from Aston Miller. Mm-hmm. Everyone was getting Lavia back. Nope. It's great, but it's a funny thing because to me, our academy is a very weird thing because when you were at Manchester City's academy, you're good enough to go and have a very good football career, Aston Villa, Fulham, Brighton, whoever. We're not talking no disrespect here. We're not. If you're in Ipswich's academy or Middlesbrough's academy, you're going down to the second and third tier of football. Mm-hmm. If you're in City's academy, you're going to have a nice Premier League career. I think we forget to get into this City team, you have to be special.
You have to be a Foden, you have to be a Rico Lewis, and that point from Alec there, Anne-Marie, we had a meltdown when Aguero, Silva, Vinny, Yaya, Fernandinho, etc. left, and I've cited this as well as what Alec's saying. Everyone seems to think when one player goes, we're doomed because we don't just replace a play. Listen, you can't replace Aguero. Some might say, yeah, we have done with Haaland. You can't replace David Silva, Vinny, Yaya, etc. However, the players what are not as good as those players, we play a different way, don't we?
Yeah, we do play a different way. And one of the other things is every single one of those players went on a free. We didn't get any money in for any one of those players. So it proves that City do stick to the word in what they've agreed with players because that had been agreed with all of them. So they could go and finish the careers wherever they wanted to. But with the young lads, I think we do have to be careful with them because if we hype them up too much, we're just letting they'll get knocked down straight away. It's like Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer's a decent player, he really is. But when you listen to him last season, he was trying too hard to play the way we wanted him to and to keep everyone happy. And actually, that's maybe not his best way of going about it. He needs to let his own football do the talking. And it's difficult to bring, when you look at the players we've got, how do you bring in some of these youngsters? Yeah, we've got some decent strikers there in our academy. And yet you see the likes of, and to be honest, I don't think he's got a future with us anyway, but the Lap going out on loan again. But
he was the next big thing, and look how, and you're absolutely right there, Anne. Look how quickly things change around for him.
Yeah, and that's the way it's going to be for some of these lads. I think Rico Lewis, he had a great start when he started playing in the first team, but teams got to suss him out quite quickly, and he wasn't quite ready for that full step up to play regularly for us. That's not to say he hasn't got a bright future with us, but just maybe not yet. And when you look at the way they brought Foden through, that's the way they have to do it. They have to be patient with these players. And McAtee, yeah, if he's good enough, then we'll see it. But what we have to remember is there's no sentiment in football. So if these players aren't good enough, the likes of Doyle and whatever, we can't just keep them for sentiment's sake.
I do think McAtee's a talent, because he's carried that Sheffield team to the Premier League, didn't he? In a really difficult position to play in that midfield, and so I do think he's got a real chance, and I think it'd be interesting sort of how he gets used in the squad next season. I think he's the one that's got a chance, I would say.
Do you know what the thing with McAtee is? Who does he get in front of?
Well, it depends how they play. Whether they play different ways. I don't think he'll get in front of anybody, but I do think if he gets his chance in the team, I do think he'll deliver for himself. He's got a great attitude. watched him a couple of times last season for Sheffield, and they can't speak highly enough of him, and he can get on with stuff himself. So I just think he's a quick learner as well, and he's got a lot of energy.
I think the only reason I ask it, and I agree with you, I think the problem is you got is when you've gone playing 40 games with Sheffield United, it's hard to come to City and just play 15, for example.
Yeah,
you've got to look at it and when's the cut-off point. Because there's one player we've all completely forgot about was Alvarez. He's completely gone out of everyone's mind. Alvarez is not just going to sit back on the bench again.
Foden has to be fair, and I
don't see Foden in midfield at the minute.
Because Paddy, and it's quite right. McAtee, it seems, he's the only player I can remember what's sent out on loan with a brand new contract. So yeah, and for me as well, what Martin touched on it. Then he played say for instance 40 games for Sheffield United last season. However, he's not going to expect to come in and play 40 games for City. Surely his mentality will be, there's no way I'm going to break in that team. However, I'm going to be happy with less games because I'm going to be playing with better players. It'll make me a better player. And if I'm playing well, it's up to me then to say to Pep, I deserve to start. So that's a win-win, surely.
Well, look, young players have to accept that they're serving an apprenticeship. He's a first-year apprentice, effectively, when he starts back with that first team next season. So a first-year apprentice in any trade doesn't get top dollar and doesn't be asked to do things that they're not capable of doing. So he has to bide his time, like Foden did, and work his way in and serve his apprenticeship. You just don't go from the EDS into the first team. That's not realistic. You have to bide your time. Pep sees them in training, sees what they're capable of, knows what minutes to give them, might start them in an FA Cup game or a League Cup game. It's all about serving your apprenticeship. I think people are moving away from that, thinking he's brilliant into the first team. Players have to serve an apprenticeship. I know it's a very old-fashioned way of looking at it, but in most trades, you serve a 3 or 4 year apprenticeship.
You don't always want that, though, do they? Look at James Trafford. James Trafford's never played a minute for City. Walked in and went, I want to play.
Well, look,
so he had to go.
God bless his ego and God bless his enthusiasm. But I'd hate to begin into the season and expecting Trafford to be my number one.
No, I agree. I'm just saying, from a player's point of view, this is the problem. These kids don't want to sit playing 15 games. Some of them, they want to play. McAtee played 37 appearances for Sheffield United, daily 2,000 minutes. So I'm totally with everyone. If he's happy to do that, great, and it's a great mentality to have. The problem is he just going to be happy with the odd Premier League and then the FA Cup games or the Carabao Cup games? That's what he's got to then make that decision on.
Would you not rather hit 50% or something than 100% of nothing?
Yeah, as a fan, yeah, it's down to McAtee though, what he wants to do.
Anne-Marie, I'll tell you what concerns me, Anne-Marie, is with everyone's calling for Oscar Bob to come in, everyone's calling for Borges to come in and play. No disrespect to those people or anything like that, because it's their opinion. And did the fans actually watch these players week in, week out? And what I've said before, and I think I've said it on our show as well, put Cole Palmer, put Gomez into our EDS, they will shine. And people will be saying, get Cole Palmer in our first team squad, get Gomez. However, that step up is absolutely massive. So Borges might not be good enough to come into the first team. Oscar Bob might not, or any other players. Are we putting too much expectation on them? Because surely if they was good enough by now, they'd already be in that squad.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, Andy. And at the same time, all these people that are calling for them, I don't believe for 1 minute they're watching them week in, week out. I think they're reading a bit of hype about them and jumping on the bandwagon. And you can't do that, because more often than not, some of those players, while they might look okay in the EDS, take the step up, and you can tell straight away well out of the depth. And I wouldn't want to do that to any of them because it'll destroy whatever confidence they've got. And that's what football is based on. If a player's got confidence, they're going to do well. But I think we get carried away with the hype of some of our players. You know, years ago there was what was his name? Is it Barker?
Yeah.
Brandon Barker, and everyone was
Patrick Roberts was another one.
Exactly. But all these players were raved about how good they were going to be, and they were only young, and they were only this, that, and the other, and yet not one of them made it at City. Not one of them, and that's got to tell you something. You can. It's not an easy place to come into, and I mean, for me, last season, both Alvarez and Haaland, it was amazing the way they fitted in straight away. And that tells you more about them as players than it does about City, because they just managed, they've got it about them. They've got the confidence about them to fit in and to make it work. And I just think that if we start rushing a load of kids into our team, it'll destroy their confidence, and that won't do any of us any good.
Yeah.
Carlos Borges is a great.
I got Matt. Gary, with what Anne-Marie's saying there, I totally get what she's saying. What's your stance on bringing too many kids in?
Well, I think you can only bring sort of one or two in, can't you, into you know, when you think back to United years ago. I know we don't want to talk about them, but they what's going on at City now for the last 5 or 6 years is what those guys used to do all the time. They would refresh the squad, wouldn't they, every other 3 or 4 years, bring 2 or 3 in, bring maybe one in from the academy, and that's all they did. And I think you've got to be, you'll destroy the confidence if you bring them into a team that's not winning. And I think, you know, and there's some certain positions that you can't, you know, they will absolutely just fall off a cliff, like central midfield, holding midfield, centre forward, you know, those sort of positions. You need good quality, high quality consistency in the spine of the team. If not, you know, you're in trouble, because in the British Premier League, you know, everything goes through that central midfield area, you know, and or straight up to the centre forward, and you've got to have good quality in there. It's like you look at Rodri's high quality, struggled in the first season. City have adapted the way they play because he's not the same player as Fernandinho, you know, and that's took a bit of time to settle down. And you know, and I'm interested this year in how Calvin Phillips developed. I do think he had a tough time last year. It's a big step up. Carried a lot of injuries. Didn't, you know, had a real difficult Euros. You know, and he's shown a good attitude so far, coming back early, working on his own, and it'd be interesting, sort of, you know, how what they do with him in pre-season, because I do think they've got faith in him, and we'll see what happens there, because people have forgot about him.
Yeah, I totally agree there, mate. And what's impressed me about Calvin in particular over the past few days since he's gone back in training early and stuff like that, I think that's a great attitude, and it shows that you want to succeed. But the interview, the in-depth interview, what he's done with regarding how Pep, you know, what Pep said, and it's easy that on an outside looking in, or if you're a media, you can just put it as Pep says Phillips is fat. But what he's actually gone in and said is he went to some sort of like family function and he came back 2 or 3 pounds overweight. Pep wasn't happy. Now, Calvin Phillips has not said, I can't believe he's not said that. He actually said, I can totally understand what Pep says. You know, it's basically my own fault. So he's took accountability of stuff, what he's done. So straight away, surely Pep will embrace that, won't he? Rather than it be deemed as Calvin's sort of like having petulance, you know, chatting back to me, you know, in public. It's like, let's move on. Let's draw that line now, because Calvin knows the truth. Pep knows the truth.
Yeah, no, that's right. And, you know, they're not going to share what, you know, some of those personal conversations, aren't they? You know, it's like the whole stuff around Grealish in it during the summer. You know, everyone's seen the latest videos of him in Dubai and he working with a trainer and all that, you know, before he comes back. So, you know, and they know those characters, don't they, amongst the players, you know, and the backroom staff, you know. are working with those guys week in, week out. So I think I don't think we should panic. I think, we filled the gap with Kovacic. I think he's an exceptional player. He's a winner in it, and he's won trophies. And I think, it's all about his mentality. Why they've gone and got him. They got him at a good price. And apart from Gavardol, who they will bring in, but we're paying a premium for him because he's a left-footed player, isn't he? And that's why you're paying a premium. And but he's an exceptional talent.
Go on, Martin.
No, I was just about. It was Anne-Marie's part on the thing. Like Carlos Borges is the perfect example. Won EDS 2 Player of the Year, or Premier League 2 Player of the Year. Trouble is with him, he's a direct winger. We don't play direct wingers in the first team.
Mm-hmm.
What do? You're stuck. He's not going to play in our system. It's clear with the way Pep's lining up the back line, we're going to play with centre-backs across the back line. So,
however, Pep has probably not took for granted that we're going to be losing a winger in Mahrez. And people have this idea of wingers, they're just fast people. It used to be that, and we used to play them. But we've seen that Grealish is a winger. However, he's not the Grealish of Aston Villa.
Yeah, I'm going to win up watching Borges when I'm watching.
No, I've watched quite a bit of him. I think he would be the same standard as a Cole Palmer coming into our first team.
It's just such a massive. You said it, chasm, and that's what I call it. It's a chasm from EDS to, and I think that's props on Rico and Phil to get in. It shows how good they are to get straight in, and not like Larby. That was the problem with Larby. He wanted game time. Pep said that, came out and said I couldn't give him the game time, so he had to go. And it's Sancho, Jayden Braff. Everyone was raving about Jayden Braff like he was the next big thing. It is what it is, and some of it. I tongue in cheek, I call it a meat factory a little bit because it is. How much money we made out the academy?
It's right, and
it's the way it is. Sadly,
we've said this before, Anne-Marie. Whereas with the academy, if you lose, say, 40 million on Bernardo, if we keep him another season, it's balanced out with the academy lads who are not quite good enough, but we're getting good fees like Trafford. All the players. What we've seen leave. So for me, it's still going to be net across the whole of Manchester City Football Club as a business.
Of course it is, and that's the thing. We're not stupid. And the likes of James Trafford, he pulled off a good save last weekend, didn't he, to help win the Euros. And yet he could come back and play for Burnley and have an absolute nightmare. Because a lot depends on what's playing in front of you as a goalkeeper, doesn't it? And he's at that position where he's been pretty well hyped up. And don't get me wrong, he's not done anything wrong, but let's see how he does cope. But it's a win-win for us because we're getting him off our books. We're going to get the best part of £20 million for him. And it gives us money to spend if we want it. So I've got no issue with it. And that's the way it is with all of these academy players. If they're wanting first team football and they're not, thankfully the likes of Foden, that was patient enough to wait for it, let them go. The likes of Lavia went, and we've seen Sancho go to Dortmund and yet he hasn't been a success at United since he moved.
He has. He's been brilliant.
It's been brilliant for us.
Yeah, it's been brilliant for us. Yeah. But again, we made money out of that deal, which is great. And that's one of the things the club has done right. In all of these players that we're selling on, we're putting in clauses, aren't we? Both buyback clauses and clauses for if they get sold on. And that's shrewd business in my book. And it's going to work really well for us.
What would you like to see, Paddy? Would would you like to see sort of like that? And I think that's a great point by Pardo Oaks there. McAtee didn't play a lot for Sheffield United last year. He still has some physical developments to do. Now, answer me this one, mate. That Pardo Oaks has absolutely nailed it on there. So the question I'm going to ask you, mate, is if he's still got some physical attributes to do, he could be buried if he stayed on loan with Sheffield United next season. You know, it could be absolutely buried for what, you know, with the physicality of playing for Sheffield United. Or, like you said before, 50% coming, playing for Pep, building him up. Surely that's going to be a better education. Because next season, if he stayed on loan, it could absolutely hammer his career.
And I think that's why Rico Lewis was taken out of the team as well, because he wasn't physically strong enough at times. When the rough stuff started happening, he was taken off the pitch and Walker was put on. But when the technical side of the game, the inverting and all that can carry on, and he wasn't being challenged, he played then. But when he was coming up against people who were going to boot him and stuff like that, so even Pep came out and had a go at the players for not protecting him because they were kicking lumps out of him. Like your man, Diaz, the first team players, Grealish and Haaland and all, they slag Diaz because he's in the gym, he's trying to get big, and he's not getting packing on size. And somebody who works out in the gym quite a lot, it's very, very hard to put on muscle.
You talking about me there, Paddy, in the gym?
You're a water boy in the gym. Look, if McAtee has any sense, he'd stay. If Pep says to him, "Come and train with me for this season coming, what's the first team? Learn off the likes of De Bruyne and the rest of them. I'll put you in the games I think I can put you in, and serve your apprenticeship that way." No, he's quite within his rights to turn around and say, "No, not for me. I want to go and play regular first team football." Well, off you go, and the best luck to you. But you're not going to rush into that Man City first team. There's seasoned Premier League players that can't get into that team. I know Haaland and Alvarez were an exception this year, but Grealish took a year to settle.
Mm-hmm. Aki did in fairness. You know, there is play like Phillips has took a year, and with the greatest respect to McAtee, Phillips is got a lot more experience than McAtee. So you could look at one thing or the other, Gary, like, you know, whether young and fearless and stuff like that. And with what Charlie says there, of course, McAtee will be happy to play less games when he's playing for the best team in the world. As a player, Gary, if you was McAtee, would you prefer to go out on loan, play, say 40 games for, say, a Sheffield United, or come back and play a quarter or half of the games for City?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on his characteristics and his makeup, doesn't it? What's driving him on, and the people around him, and where he eventually wants to get to in his career. I think coming back and sort of being part of the first team squad, has got to be better for him. As I say, because if he goes back out on loan to Sheffield, they're going to have some tough games. And I don't think they'll play him every week in the Sheffield team either. If he goes back there, because it's the toughest place to play is in that midfield area. Especially if you've got to carry the ball and hold the ball. I think I think it'll be difficult. I think he'll get more time and space to play in our team than most of the others. And I think I think he should come back. It depends what's driving him mentally. Really, I think it's like Jadon Sancho, in it. I think he's always a bit of chip on his shoulder, and he felt he could go and play elsewhere. It was about his characteristics, and so that's why they let him go. He's come back to United, and Ten Hag's put some faith in him, but he's really struggled in that team, hasn't he? When he's needed to do a lot more, and I don't think he'll play as many games next year if they if they fill some of their places. So it's a big step up, and I think he should come back and play for us.
Yeah, Martin, go on.
Yeah, like Charlie has put, of course, he'll be happy to play 50%. Well, why did he go on loan in the first place?
That was down to Pep. What we'll say in defence of McAtee there is, Martin, what we'll say in defence of Pep and McAtee there, and I said it earlier, Pep give him a brand new contract before he sent him out on loan. I've never known City to give any kid a brand new contract before sending him out on loan. So surely there, Pep has seen something where he does need to go out on loan and come back. And he's got a few. He didn't do it with Lavia, did he?
No, I agree. I'm just going off because I read an interview Pep said, and he said McAtee wanted to play, and he couldn't give it to him. And he's got high hopes to give him the contract, but this is what I'm saying. If Lewis didn't ask to go on loan, Foden didn't ask to go on loan. Now I'm not saying he won't come in and do it, but to me, he clearly wants to play. That's why he's asked to go on loan. He was given the option. Pep said that in an interview. He was given the option to stay or go, but you had to sign the contract. That's what he said. Go on loan, but you sign the contract, which great. And apparently they're looking at giving him a new one as well to keep him. But this is the thing of he wanted to play. Now, if he can come in, I think the key is how long we stay in the cup games for. How long we stay in certain competitions. I think pre-season's key as well. Because I think we'll hear a lot of news this week, especially. I think this week's going to be a very defining week for summer plans and everything else because we go to China and Japan on Wednesday.
Yeah, so I agree there. There's going to be a lot of business done, signings and stuff like that, you know, when we're going to be on the other side of the world. However, with technology and stuff like that now, we know we're FaceTime and stuff like that. It's not as if Pep has to fly all the way back to Manchester or a new potential signing is going to have to fly all the way to say Japan and stuff like that. I can see Gvardiol being done before we fly out on Wednesday.
Well, Leipzig have just signed his replacement. He's having his medical right now. That broke about half an hour ago.
See, I'm already with the news without even noticing, aren't I? So Anne-Marie, Charlie says there, let's be realistic. And I think McAtee will also know that he won't be playing 50 games for the club. I absolutely spot on with that comment.
100%. And I think, you know, one of the key things is for these young lads, if they get into our first team, whether they're playing or not, the fact that they're training every day with these world-class players, it gives them the opportunity to learn so much. It's the same as if you listen to Foden when he was playing with David Silva every day and Sergio, what he learned from them. And I think it's ideal for our young lads, if they're in that first team squad, to develop and to learn.
Yeah, with what Patrick says there. Patrick, be careful with that because we saw you on a stream the other night, mate, when you kept going off camera. But that's another story.
You're giving me flashbacks.
So, yeah, Paddy, you know, we have seen Jaden Braith and stuff like that go. It was well documented with, and Gary touched upon it before, it was well documented before we sent Sancho out to Dortmund that there was a problem with his attitude and stuff like that. Now he's gone to United. He's not really set the world alight, you know, considering he was this high prodigy of City and stuff like that. And it looks like United are looking at moving him on again. So we have to be careful of building these players up to, you know, because there'll be a fall from grace, you know, sooner than you can say United are crap.
Name one young player that we've released that has come back to haunt us.
Michael Brown. We sold him to Sheffield United on the Friday, and he scored the winner against us on the Saturday.
Steve Lomas. He scored for West Ham against us.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm laughing at Patrick's comments.
it's very rare we get it wrong. Very rare. Like I know,
and that goes back to the poll, mate. I'll put the poll result up at the moment. So, are you concerned the amount of players leaving City this summer? Yes is 38%. No is 24%. Oh, the yes has just gone up to 39%. And trust Pep on the board is 37%. I'm with you. We've got to trust Pep because...
Can somebody tell me who's all these players that are leaving? What's this major panic about all these players leaving?
I think it's because it's Mahrez war. It's because it's some experienced ones going out the door. I think they're looking at squad depth.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter who leaves. They're all experienced players, aren't they? Because they all play week in, week out because they rotate. So no matter who you let go, be an experienced player. And
but they can't win because if we don't buy anyone, we don't let people go. We can't buy anyone because we've no room.
Absolutely. So right. And as I say, the refreshes continuous refresh is important. I just look at Akanji. No, he was on nobody's radar, was he? And it's all about your scouting network and your talent ID team. So that's joined up all the time.
Oscar Bob's another one. Sorry, reading it in the comments. You don't want Oscar Bob in? So we're going to have a bench full of EDS.
Jesus, we're going to have a fucking stadium of EDS at this rate.
We'll have no plays. It'll just be EDS plays on the bench.
But Gary's right. They are all experienced going out, aren't they, Gary? So we're not going to exactly... And I don't go for it when people are saying the experience are going out and we're going to be bringing inexperienced kids in. We saw how quickly we did Kovacic when we knew Gundo was going. Just because we're not being linked to players, don't mean to say we know what's going on behind the scenes, does it? Hey, Gary?
No, I think but they're not going to make it public, are they? Because the price just goes up, doesn't it? And I think they'll there's loads of work going on, all the time. Having been involved in talent ID myself, another club sort of only at academy level. There's all sorts of conversations going on all the time, and and I think there's only really one place to fill in the squad. And if Garvadol comes in, there's still room for one more, and I think they will bring one more in if no one else goes. If Silva goes, they'll bring another one in, but. And the only one that they want to do that is is Frankie de Jong in it. They don't want anybody else to sort of to replace him because he's an high quality player, and they don't want to weaken the squad. Otherwise, they'll be in a Kanji type deal, I think, to fill that other space, or they'll put an academy player in. But I come back to Calvin Phillips. I think he'll be. If he hits the ground running, I think it will be like a new player, won't we? Because we didn't see anything of him last year.
I think you're right, Gary. I think Phillips will become good this season. As regards James Trafford, we've already replaced him. We've already bought a keeper to replace him. That 16-year-old from Wimbledon, I think he's Spike Brits or something. What's his name?
Yeah, I forget it's there, and that's right. Because even with regards to Trafford, or any goalkeeper really, Gary, I would prefer to buy a goalkeeper from somebody who's doing well, however, not at the top of the league with a great defence in front of them, because the chances are they're not going to get much opportunity to save shots. Sometimes like Ederson done, sometimes like Alisson done, and etc. You'd want somebody who's being peppered all season long, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think if you do that, I mean, I'm surprised. I think Ortega's got a great attitude, hasn't he? So he's not making a noise. He still wants to stay. And I think me anyway, and a lot of City fans are really confident when he plays. Better than Stefan did before that. I think he's an high quality goalkeeper playing in. Was a number 2 for us. Who could play as a number 1, and I think that it's got to be that type of signing. Like a Kanji type player and all that, who's got good pedigree, but he's quite happy not to play week in, week out. Then they're the type of players you've got to find.
Yeah, it's just go on, Anne-Marie. Tell us what you think.
I I think Akanji was an unreal find for us last season. I don't even think Pep expected to get what he got out of him. And that's why he's getting rewarded with the new deal, isn't he? Supposedly. But you need players that are willing to adapt and are going to bring something to the team, not necessarily, because I think one of the biggest things that has helped us in the last season was team spirit and team morale, because that seemed to be the thing that got us over the line in all the games and all competitions. So I think that that's a key thing for us. But my own opinion is always trust Pep, because he's not let us down once. You know,
Absolutely.
we're watching the most unbelievable football we've ever seen. We've just watched our team win an incredible treble, which never in our wildest dreams could we have imagined.
Not in our lifetime.
Exactly. And you know, it's a joy to watch now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'd go to Main Road and sometimes at the Etihad under Pierce, you'd be just praying to see a goal.
Or even a throw-in.
Yes. Without the bloody Beanie Bear being there. And now we're watching what is unbelievable. We're watching pure class. The way we can dominate a team now is unbelievable. And we've just got, we've got to remember how lucky we are.
And we've got, I'd say in the main, most City fans are grounded. Martin, Pardo Oaks there, McAtee should adopt the same attitude that Foden had when he was trying to make his way into the first team. JMO also put, just above that, and I think it's absolutely spot on as well. Rico Lewis was training every day on holiday. That's the difference. Foden always has a ball at his feet. They have different mentality. Now, they're too young, because Foden's still a kid, But I would put Calvin Phillips now on the back of that by attitude, coming back, wanting to do it. Now, for the best will in the world, there is City players who don't want Calvin to break through in any way, shape or form. But I will say to that, if he comes, or not just Calvin, but any player what breaks through where you think that they're not going to quite make it, but they come through and they're having worldies, it's a win-win situation, isn't it? Because we've got that hunger. And as I've said before, we can't have 24 A-listers in the squad. You also need your Phillipses, your Gomez's, the likes of your Cole Palmers, mix it with a little bit of youth. Because 24 A-listers, you've got an unsettled side straight away, and you've got too many egos, which Pep will he doesn't like working with that by all accounts.
Played that game before and we got bit.
Yeah,
Played that game where we tried it.
Yeah, if Phillips works out really early on, he's really important to the team, innit? Because Foden will have to play centrally with De Bruyne's injury, because he's going to have surgery in here, and he's probably going to miss a few games. I would think, if I think that's going to happen. So it's key that there's that extra player going to play a little bit deeper, I think.
I just think Kovacic is going to surprise a lot.
Yeah,
there's some people got experience. This is a guy who's won Champions Leagues, and this guy's experienced.
Yeah, he's a top winner. Yeah, he's a top player. If you think about in that, that played for all those Chelsea managers, didn't he? He was never left out by any of them. And I think he's a top quality player. Plus, also he's got a bit of a nasty streak as well, and we don't have a lot of that in that leadership.
Absolutely,
group. I think he's got a bit of that, and I think he'll surprise people.
Did you hear his interview, Gary? When he was asked when he first joined City, he was asked, do you know many of the City players and stuff like that? And he went, no. He says, but I've played against a few of them sometimes, and that was like, that's why I've been brought in, because for the best will in the world, there's only Rodri who can really do that, put the foot in and stuff like that. And I think early last season we was lacking a little bit like that, of somebody who could get a grip of it. And it wasn't till late on when Haaland and stuff like that, when there's a bit of trouble on the pitch, Haaland was the first one then to go on with the bouncer, if you like, there wasn't enough of them characters, you know, to look after themselves. So I think it's important we do bring that to our game, because it's going to be a tough season next season, because the Premier League is potentially going to be probably a blockbuster.
Yeah, I think. Well, he's a Ferrandino type character, in it, because he would sort of, you know when to foul, when not to foul, when to wind people up. I think, you know, that Chelsea team at its best, you know, it's full of players who could do that. You know, Aspilicueta, him. You know, there's a few of those. So he's that type of player. I think he'd be interesting, and I think he'll play more games than people think he'll play.
Yeah, I have you right on that. Initially, when we was linked with him, and when we signed him, I was thinking he'll probably be happy to play on the bench. But then, like what Martin said, he's a winner. He's won Champions Leagues and stuff like. What is he? 29. So he's not. We've not brought a journeyman in, really. You know, we brought somebody in with tons and tons of experience. And can you see him playing a lot, Marie?
I think so, because we know in reality we haven't had a proper backup for Rodri, and the number of games he played last season was unreal, and it was obvious towards the end of the season that he needed a rest, but yet he still scored the winning goal in the Champions League final. And I think it's not a bad thing that we've got players there that can give people a rest, you know, because there was times last season, particularly towards the end, when we were putting out what I would say on our part, a weaker team in those last few games. We weren't putting out our strongest 11, and you could just tell we weren't quite right. You know, so I think that we need to have a bit more depth in our squad.
Paddy Condino there says, I trust Pep, but I don't trust the board. For me, you're either, how can I put this? You either trust one or none, because Pep and the board are pretty much the same thing, aren't they? Or am I missing the point?
I don't understand that comment, to be honest with you. Move on. You can't.
I think it depends, because I think Pep had a different scenario on Gundo, didn't he, and on Walker.
But ultimately, Martin, it was down to Gundo because he was out of contract. So it's regardless what the board say, regardless what Pep says. Listen, Pep, we don't know. By all accounts, Pep wanted Gundo to stay. So if Pep goes to the board, for instance, and says, do whatever you can to keep Gundo, he knows I want him to stay, just do whatever you can. And the board go to Gundo, listen, we'll offer you obscene amounts of money, this, that, and the other. And Gundo goes, I'm a free agent. Thanks for the offer, but I want to go to Barcelona. I want to try something different. That's not Pep's fault. That's not the board's fault.
This is what, and it isn't the board's fault. And people need to start, I agree, they need to trust. People need to remember these players are not Manchester City fans.
Mm-hmm.
It is a job to them. So we need to come out of this mindset that they're going to be here for 10 years, and how dare they leave our football club. Players leave. That's just a simple fact of life. They go.
And like an earlier comment about all the legends like Sergio, you know, and stuff like that.
Sergio Aguero didn't wake up going, "Oh, I watched City at Main Road." He'd never heard of Main Road before he signed for us. Let's get this straight and be honest. No,
but Sergio Gomez did.
Yes. All right, calm down, you Gomez's agent. But the simple fact is, he hadn't. So they came, they did the job, they fell in love with it. Yes, they've got an affiliation now, but they move on. Gundogan is not English. These young foreign players grow up wanting to play for Barcelona and Real Madrid, and no matter how much.
He said he was a Barcelona fan, to be fair.
No matter how much of a basket case these clubs are at the moment, still a dream. That's why United still get to sign certain players, because in their minds, they grew up with wearing the United shirt.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a fact of reality. We need to come away from this. How dare they leave City, and how dare, they have the gall to ask to go.
Yeah.
The only thing I would like is some of these players do a little bit more research on Manchester before you rock in the door and someone decide the food and the weather don't suit you.
We've got loads of McDonald's in Manchester and pizza. Gary, there, Condino. I 100% agree with him here, mate. Don't know what your thoughts are. I want Mahrez replaced with someone from the transfer market, not the academy.
Yeah, well, we haven't got a player in the academy that can play play wide, and take the pressure up when he receives the ball, take the pressure up inside so we can recover, do it. We haven't got anybody who can do that, so they're going to have to find someone in the market if he goes.
That's what I was saying earlier. Apparently, the plane trip will be very interesting on Wednesday and who's on it and who's not.
I've already checked them all in, mate. I know who's going.
Yeah. Apparently, Pep doesn't want anyone who's he wants a nice atmosphere away. Doesn't want any trouble while he's away.
To be fair, I'm the same when I go on holiday. I don't want any hassle. I just want to go there and get drunk and, and have a nice, happy thing. Anne-Marie, it will be interesting to see who does go on the pre-season tour. Who can you see? Is there going to be one more shocker who you think, I was expecting him going on the tour, but he's not?
I think there's always going to be an element of that because it's pre-season and nothing's ever settled at this point. You've got however many players in your squad, you're taking them away, and at no point over this pre-season are you going to see a full-strength City squad. At no point, because that's just not the way it is. And even come the Charity Shield, you won't see a full-strength City team. So you just accept it for what it is. And even starting the season on the 11th, we're going to have players that are still working the way back, and it's going to take us a few weeks because it always does.
Yeah, I do think, I know there's been a lot of partying, haven't they? But I do think the players are going to be fresher. They've not had any competitive football during the break, have they? So there's been no Euros, been no World Cup. I think, we benefited from that last season. I think we'll benefit from that this season. So I do think players will be a lot fresher than people think they're going to be. And it'd be interesting who starts, the first pre-season game.
Yeah. Because I've spoken to somebody about this, Paddy, where in training you could see Pep sort of like, I've seen this from Inside City and stuff like, the videos of training and stuff like that. He seems to have his first or his favourites or whatever in one team playing against the also-rans, if you can call them also-rans. It'd be interesting to see if Calvin Phillips, for instance, is in his Pep's favourite and Rodri is in his not so favourite, if that makes sense, to see how he will handle it, coming up against certain types of players.
Jeez, I can't imagine Rodri not being Pep's favourite.
No, I mean, just in a training scenario, because he's going to change. He's going to try. Listen, Pep's renowned for trying different crazy things. It must be some crazy, must be people with bald heads and stuff like that. But it won't be out of the ordinary for him to try, putting a Calvin Phillips in place of a Rodri in training purposes to see how he handles the demands of it, the intensity.
Going off previous experience, Pep tries different formations before Christmas, and then if they work, he kind of sticks with it, and if they don't work, he goes back then to the same as he did last season, the flat back four. He went straight back to that, and he knocked the invert and crack on the head, and that's when we started to kick in the gear. Pep will always try stuff, that's what he does. He thinks about football 24/7. He's famous for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in stuff that's going on off the pitch as well with the backroom staff. There's a refresh going. There's a refresh there, isn't there? And it's how that affects the players in pre-season. I think that's as important as the playing squad, because there's some major changes in that backroom staff, isn't there? So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like coming out of pre-season.
And if you listen to the players, Gary, like at the end of the season there, a lot of them, especially Grealish and Haaland and stuff, were very, very thankful of the backroom staff. He says, like, no, you don't see these players, or these people, and the part that they play, but like they're a big contribution to the success on the pitch. You don't actually see them because they're in the background, but like a lot of the first team players went out of their way to thank them.
Martin Chadwick says, "I hope we stay up." And it can sort of drag you like that, Anne-Marie, can't you? Sort of like some of the meltdowns. It makes it's like,
of course, the first and foremost thing we look for every season is reaching 40 points.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else after that's a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. I've to sort of finish off with, guys, because I'm conscious of the time and stuff like that, and you've got other things to do on a Sunday evening. A few of the comments have asked us to briefly discuss the Community Shield. That it says that it's more or less a sellout. I think we could see that. I think we could see that despite the boycott and stuff. But I think, in my opinion, I'll go first before I come round to you. Although it may be sold out, the atmosphere, it's not going to be the same as all the hardcore, if you like, if I can call them hardcore, when they're in there generating the atmosphere. Paddy,
You're underestimating me.
I think I think because of the success we have now, like I don't think to say like the battle hardened away fans will be there. There's thousands of them. It says that they won't be there, and because we are so successful now, both on and off the pitch, you're going to hit the place full with tourists, and they're not going to know the songs. The atmosphere is not going to be the same, so it'll be.
And it's Anne-Marie, for win-win situation. Maybe Wembley will be full. And
well, City played the blinder, didn't they? I'm a season ticket holder, and I could get 4 tickets off my 1 ticket for the Charity Shield. They weren't stupid in what they did when they set up the selling criteria. They knew exactly what was going to happen, and there's no way, if they hadn't have done what they've done, would they be anywhere near selling out.
Yeah. Gary, win-win situation where Wembley will be full, but more importantly, the food bank is going to make a shed load of cash.
Yeah, no, I think it's. I think the way that's been dealt with, I think it's been really good, and it makes a statement. And there was some movement in the game kickoff time. So I do think there was a little bit of listening to the fans, So I think it's been a bit of a win-win. I think the game's an opportunity for some other people to go and watch you, probably more local and all that type of stuff. So, and I do think there's a lot of football tourism around the Charity Shield, and people going there from sponsors or charity organisations anyway. So, it's a little bit of a different game now into the Community Shield than it was years ago. There was the first team always played. It was always 3:00 on a Saturday, etc., etc. It was seen as a non-charitable opener at times, but it's just gone the other way, hasn't it? And I just don't, I just think it should be seen as what it is, really.
Yeah. So a lot of people are saying it's just going to be day trippers going to Wembley. We'll get your thoughts, Martin.
Is that what I am now? Day tripper. Change the way down now, have I?
Boom.
No, it's funny because there are lots of like big blues who suddenly now coming out of the woodwork going, yeah, we're going. And it was a bit
I've heard the opposite to that, mate.
No, I know a few who are going down who are big blues and go week in, week out, and they're all going down. There are a lot of tourists as well going. I think what Anne-Marie said about the tickets was very intriguing, and that was my issue when you had Dante on. It was a brilliant show. I honestly suggest anyone go back and watch that. It was exceptional. The club were never going to support it. They were never behind it, really, and that's why they stayed quiet. It was I think the 1894 group have now, which is I think is the right way to go about it, is now a community victory more than a victory for the fans in a way, because I think City's gone beyond the local fans thing now.
Yeah.
The club aren't bothered who's local and who's not local anymore. That's just the cold hard facts of the reality. They're not.
We're just customers. We're just customers now.
They ain't building an hotel for any of us. I'm 5 minutes from the Etihad. I don't need an hotel. You're all right. They ain't building that for me.
Yeah. So we'll finish on a couple of things here. The poll results. The most popular is trust Pep and the board. It comes out at 42%. And you know something? I was hoping that would be the outcome, but it's you guys in the chat and stuff like that what's actually said that, and I think I have you right on there. So we'll finish on the last bit of fun now for whoever's going to win one of these mugs. I know my favourite straight away, but it's not just for me to choose. Let's go through the ones of starred. Simon, what's it? Sorry. Beyond belief. Now is the time to make changes, reinvigorate the team with new additions, let players move on, bring the youth through, and make some astute signings to bring the newer, hungrier. No need to panic. That's a good one. And again, use make a physical note of your favourite here. Mahrez worth more than 25 million. Surely that's what gets me. I agree with that because, you know, love him or hate him, he is Marmite. And I've read his stats out earlier. I just think he's worth more than that. I agree with that one. The age of some of our players requires a refresh. Mahrez 32, Walker 33, Gundo 32. Kev isn't far behind them. CM City says, please talk about the community shield. Yeah, we've just done that. I hope you agree or not. Keith Hodkinson says, I'm so laid back about next season that I'm falling off my chair. City don't react to things. They will have a plan in case of any of it happens. Timmer, African Cup of Nations this season. Mahrez out for a month in the new year. Maybe a good time for him to move on. That's a great point, that mate. You know, and I think that may have reflected in Pep's thinking. Keith Hodkinson again. This time last year, I worried myself sick about the experienced players we were losing. Didn't end too badly, did it? Spot on, mate. Elliot, even everyone think too much worry for me. Give some of the lads from last year a chance. If not, it hasn't worked out. We change in January. Pep and the board have my trust. They have mine as well, mate. Alec Johnson, we had a meltdown when Aguero, Silva, Yep, we still won trophies. I think that's very, very apt, and we've discussed that at length, and I think it's valid. Timmy, again, we may have a slow start as last year, but we always finish strongly. That wins trophies. Beyond belief, if we lose Gundo, Mahrez, Walker, Silva, Laporte, and Cancelo, then it's a significant refresh of 6 players. We only lost Jesus, Zinchenko, and Fernandinho last summer. That's sort of my concern as well. Not too many more comments left because I didn't do too many. Keith, again, sick of Bernardo business. For all that I love him as a player, he needs to be gone this window. If he's forced to stay any longer, she will make the life hell of him, and we won't play well. Matty 971, I trust the board and Pep. So here's my favourite. I'll be honest, this is my favourite from Elliot Bashford. Mahrez, when Anne-Marie's phone went off earlier, Mahrez ringing Anne-Marie, told her he's off. I love that one. Timmy, throw Cancelo to the Wolves. I don't think Wolves would have him, mate. Julie, our academy is not to play all the young lads in the first team. It's to sell for profit and get 1 or 2 gems out of the bunch. Spot on, Julie. Another one. Youngsters have to keep their egos in check if they want to stay with us. They aren't ahead of anyone. Totally agree, Julie. Has Stan been transferred to Saudi? we can only hope. And the last one from Muddy Duck. Good to see it, Paul. Don't panic, folks. Only day 31 of the transfer window. 40 days left. City often sign players in August. I've said this as well. Grealish, 5th of August. Aki the 8th. Stones the 9th. KDB 30th. Akanji the 1st of September. And Diaz 30th of October. Now, I don't know what I don't want to influence anybody with their favourite comment, so I'm not going to put anything on the screen. Go on, I'll let you go first, Gary, seeing as you're our guest.
The second beyond belief comment about about the refresh and younger players, good signings, be astute. So it's a bit of a mix of of transfer policy, isn't it? So that's the one for me.
Yeah. Paddy?
I'd second that.
You second that? Martin? Help me, Martin.
What's half the fucking thing missing?
I'm going for Muddy Ducks.
Muddy Ducks?
Last one.
Go on, Anne-Marie. I'll let you have the... Go on.
I'm feeling a bit of pressure as to which one to pick because I quite liked Beyond Belief's comment, but then I do like Elliot's comment. It was very funny.
So pick...
No one liking the Stand to Saudi comment?
Yes, I like that one as well. But I'm going to go for Beyond Belief.
Is it that one? Or was it the other one?
That one.
Is it that one, Gary?
It was the other one for me.
The other one. Keith's comment, I think it was.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one as well, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, regardless, it's Beyond Belief. Congratulations. Send me a message and tell us which one you want, whether you want the 115 charges one. Nice little one there, always on our brain. Or the City, our PUBcast one. Yeah, let us know in the comments. Congratulations. We may do one of these every week because I've got the facilities to do it now. Garrett, thanks for joining us, pal. It's been a pleasure, my friend, and it's good to see you after all these years.
Yeah, no worries. It's been good fun.
Paddy, Anne-Marie, and Martin, thanks for joining us. But just as importantly, the guys in the comments and stuff like that who make the show what it is. Until next week, guys, have a great week and speak soon. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, everybody.